The i21 solution has significant internal integrity set up from a financial accounting perspective to ensure that data is input appropriately. We'll start with the general ledger and we'll make assumptions from there and allow you to understand how data is set up. The first piece that we have to look at is the actual fiscal year calendar. So the fiscal calendars set up the actual date ranges for which you can enter data. You cannot enter data outside of these fiscal ranges. You will be forced with an error if you try to enter data outside those ranges. The second piece that our system ensures is integrity, that each individual period is closed to ensure that you do not enter data into prior periods. So this closing of data can be done by module, which is really nice. And it can ensure that you can close in a systemic, easy process, but it also ensures the data integrity. So that's a significant piece from that respect. The second piece is the financial controls of an integrated solution. Our general ledger is tightly integrated with all the other modules, and it has all its integrity checks run every time any module posts a transaction. So our general ledger is very tight from a fiscal control perspective as far as putting things in appropriate fiscal years and as far as processing transactions. The next thing that we're going to look at inside of there is an example of this function, right? So I'm going to go into a new transaction and I'm going to say I'm going to enter a transaction into a closed period, which is 1/1/2011. As soon as I tab off, this transaction is unable to post. You can see that right here. And the second thing that is done is there's the actual field with the problem is highlighted with a red box. So immediately you can see the fiscal integrity checks are in place. The second thing that you can see is, let's say we were looking for general journals and we actually looked at a closed period, and I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to sort these ascending and I'm going to find a closed period. I know 1/1/2011 is closed. You'll note that we do have an unpost function, but it's not even available. The only thing that I can do is duplicate this transaction. It's already been reversed, so it can't be reversed. The only thing I'm allowed to do is duplicate. Because it's in a closed period, I cannot adjust this amount. So that greatly ensures the integrity of the data within the system. When you buy a system today, one of the obvious things that you should check for is the ability to use key fields that allow only the input of pre-canned, predefined lists. When you look at our accounting solution, you can see that when you enter an account number that's not in the chart of accounts, it will not allow you to enter that number. So therefore, there's a very validated list of accounts that the system can actually use, and only those accounts can be used inside the system. So that ensures the integrity of the general ledger account. And again, that flows through all transactions such as currency, that flows through all data entry fields, everything of the like. Now, the next thing that we have from an integrity perspective that's significant is the fact that each general ledger account is controlled by an actual category. So if you go into the general ledger account detail and you look at the segments within the chart and you look at the primary account segments, cash accounts are defined as account categories within the system. What this means is to protect fraud and to ensure the integrity of your data. Specific accounts can only be used in specific circumstances, such as cash accounts can only be adjusted through accounts payable, accounts receivable, or through cash management. Other solutions allow you to do transactions directly in the general ledger, throwing your books out of balance and creating nightmares from an accounting perspective, from a balance perspective. All of the screens that we have and all of our financial systems do have tight balancing controls. If you look inside of our cash management application, you could take another example of some of the tight controls that have been applied within the system. Let's take a look at bank accounts, and let's pick any specific bank account we'd like to see. And within that bank account, what you'll note is that we have a general ledger balance and a GL bank difference. We will not allow transactions to be posted if the general ledger does not match the subledger. Similar checks are implemented in all the financial systems to ensure integrity of the data. In addition to those, balance checks are run every time an AP transaction posts to make sure that the AP balance is correct, and every time that an AR transaction posts just to make sure that the AR balance is correct and does balanced to the subledger. Should there be an issue, iRely personnel would be available to help you address that issue immediately, and you'd know right away. The other piece that we address from a controls perspective that you should always look at is the ability to ensure that the users are controlled by a security policy. All systems that are current, that have access through the web, should have a security policy. As a matter of fact, these are mandated highly by some governments and local security agencies. So when you look at a particular user inside of the iRely solution, they have security roles that tell you certain things about these users. When can they log in? How complex their password needs to be? Can they log in after hours? Obviously, if someone shouldn't be in the work office after hours, they shouldn't be logging into the system if they don't have access. So this allows you to control those after hours authentication. Locking the system after idle time ensures valid data, ensures that hackers don't get to data that is important and essential to running of your business. We also have logs with login history that show when a user has logged in, what computers they've accessed the system with, and what external modules permissions they have and what integrations they're in, as well as what locations and user roles they have within the system. So all these checks combine to ensure that the user is accurately being reflected in your system. The next piece that we have is two-step verification. All banking software and some of the highly sensitive business applications such as ours have two-step verification. This means that in order to log into the system, you have at least one time to authenticate every device that you log in from. So if you log in from a new device that's around the world, you have to have your phone with you so that it can get a passcode in order to enter that passcode that you've used into the system. So that's a really important security feature that validates your system cannot be hacked from external parties and can't be phished. So it's an essential feature that you should look for in all solutions. Web-based solutions without two-step or multi-factor authentication are suspect and should not be implemented with current technology standards. The next thing that we're going to look at is the company configuration. Company configuration drives how the system is used and ensures integrity at every level. You will note that things even to the level of date format are controlled. Environments, what type of environment you're in, are you in a production or test environment, is controlled. Security for email settings is logged and secured, and company information is secured at the highest level. So all that information is secured from our perspective. We do blackout passwords, we encrypt passwords, we encrypt routing numbers, we encrypt account numbers, and we encrypt bank account numbers. What that means is if you use inside of our accounts payable a vendor bank account number, it's encrypted inside of our system so that your IT department or members with access to the database can't actually get into the system and see the user's account number. You might use an account number for ACH, or you might use an account number for any number of reasons, right, for a customer, most likely ACH withdrawals. This account number is encrypted inside of our system so that you cannot see it without appropriate security, even from the back end of the database, even if you have access. And that's all done with 32-bit encryption. The other part is Ssl and Security Logins, whereby we have integrity from the respective passing certificates for security to ensure that when you log in from an external source, you are who you say you are and you're using an encrypted connection, meaning that data that you pass over the web to our solution is encrypted from the client to the server, ensuring that your data is accurate and it's hack-free. When you log into our solution, another piece that you'll note, I'm exposing our actual login URL so that you can see it, is when you log into our system, if you try and log in with the wrong password too many times, you'll start to get locked out. So let me just go with George. If I try and sign in 5 times with the same password and it fails, it's going to lock me out of the system and prevent me from having access. Okay, so that perspective is nice to ensure that I am not a robot trying to hack your system through a denial of service attack, right? So this is basically checking my password, and it's applying a small pause so that I can't have continual attacks on the system. And it'll let me go about 2 or 3 times before it shows that I am not a robot. So this makes sure that I cannot get into the system unless I am who I say I am. Now I have to go in and ensure that I am not a robot by clicking into Google. I have a Google account signed in, so it knows I'm not I am not a robot, and it will log me in immediately. We do have tight integrations with Google. Another thing from a simplicity perspective, which items like this are all over the system, is for data accuracy and integrity, is we make sure that addresses you type are appropriate. When you type in an address, we actually call out to the Google address finder, and we ensure that you get accurate address and zip code and information with respect to a person. So those type of data integrities are in the system, as well as routing codes, etc. Those codes are also pre-hosted. So we have made a significant amount of integrity checks inside of our system to ensure that your system is secure and safe from any external attack.